this story doesn't start with a villain. It starts with a hero. Adriana Soria was the first woman in Marine history to fight in actual combat. She served her country in World War II. She even briefly dated a young Steve Rogers. Yeah, Captain America himself. And you know how her country repaid her? They lined her whole unit up on a beach, right in front of a nuclear test, and never told a single one of them what was about to happen. Her entire unit was gone that day. Only Anna walked away. And decades later, that same woman kissed Spider-Man exactly once, and that one kiss turned Peter Parker into a giant spider. I'm not exaggerating for the thumbnail. That literally happens, on panel, in an official Marvel comic. Her name is Spider-Queen. Most people have never even heard of her, and by the end of this video, you might genuinely consider her the most disturbing enemy Spider-Man has ever faced. So if you're into the dark corners of Marvel that nobody covers, hit subscribe, it really helps this channel grow. And drop a comment right now. What's the most horrifying thing you've ever seen a Spider-Man villain do? Let's see if this woman tops it. Alright, let's get into it. A hero, betrayed by her own country. So let's rewind to the 1940s. Anna joins the Women's Army Corps, fights through discrimination most men never had to face, and becomes the first female Marine in combat. She's tough, she's a patriot, and she's exactly the kind of person the government was looking for. Because after the war, America was terrified of falling behind, so they quietly restarted the super soldier program that created Captain America. It was called Operation Crossroads, and here's the part that makes my blood boil. They took Anna and her unit out to the Bikini Atoll nuclear tests and used them as human sponges for radiation, without telling anyone what they were signing up for. Nobody else survived it. Anna did, because she was secretly a mutant carrying something called the insect gene, a leftover piece of DNA from way back when humans and insects split on the evolutionary tree. And get this, roughly 1/3 of humanity still carries a dormant version of that gene. Hers just woke up. The radiation cracked her mind wide open in the process, and when the government saw no flashy powers, they stamped her a failed experiment and locked her away in an asylum, a war hero, thrown away like a broken tool. Honestly, if you ask me, the real villain of this origin is wearing a government badge. And then she vanished. In 1954, her powers finally woke up for real, and she walked right out of that asylum. But she didn't go on a rampage. She did something colder. She kidnapped Professor David Jaffe, the scientist who ran the whole experiment, and kept him for herself. Then she simply disappeared. For 50 years, the government looked, found nothing, and quietly assumed she was gone. She wasn't. She was waiting. And when she finally came back, New York was not ready for what walked into town. 2004, the Queen arrives. Her big debut happens in Spectacular Spider-Man issue 15, back in 2004, written by Paul Jenkins and drawn by Humberto Ramos. And here's a piece of trivia that cracks me up. Ramos reportedly named her after his own ex-girlfriend, an actual real-life Adriana Soria. And look, I used to call my ex dramatic. This guy immortalized his as a woman who turns people into spiders. That's a whole other level of processing a breakup. Anyway, Anna strolls into New York in an elegant black dress, still looking 20-something despite being decades old, with hundreds of hypnotized people trailing behind her like a parade. And here's the detail that genuinely disturbs me. Her victims stay fully awake the entire time. She seizes their bodies, and they just get to watch, trapped as passengers inside their own skin. A taxi honks at her. She flicks it into a building with her mind, doesn't even break stride, and a few blocks away, Peter Parker's spider sense starts screaming so violently that his nose starts bleeding. His body knew something ancient and wrong had just entered the city, and then it gets personal, because Peter carries that insect gene too. The moment she sensed him, she decided he was the strongest of her subjects, which meant one thing in her mind: he would be her king, not her enemy, her mate. Peter, being Peter, cracked a joke about how he doesn't date raving psychopaths. She just laughed, pinched his chin like he was adorable, and pinned him to a wall. This woman heard the word no and decided to rewrite his biology instead. The kiss that ended Peter Parker, she forced a kiss on him, and her saliva carries a mutagenic enzyme, so that single kiss started rewriting his DNA on the spot. Over the following days, Peter grew extra eyes, then extra arms began sprouting from his body, like a dark echo of the classic six-armed saga from the 70s. Then came the fangs, and then, in one of the most nightmarish sequences Marvel has ever printed, he stopped being human entirely and became a massive, mindless spider under her control. The Queen expected that creature to produce her offspring, an entire colony of hybrids. Instead, the spider died. She trashed the lab in grief and left. Huge mistake, because from inside that dead husk, Peter Parker was reborn, crawling out with brand new organic webbing. And here's the behind-the-scenes fun fact. Marvel basically wrote this entire storyline just to give comic Peter organic webs, like the Raimi movies had. So this whole body horror nightmare exists because of a film tie-in. Comics are wild. Oh, and before she disappeared again, she casually threatened to detonate a stolen bomb that would wipe out every human without the insect gene for hundreds of miles. Millions of people. Spider-Man disarmed it, Captain America knocked her off a building, and everyone assumed that was the end of her. If you're already shocked by all this, do me a favor and pause, because everything you just heard was the warm-up. The stuff coming next made me reread these pages 3 or 4 times, just to be sure I wasn't losing my mind. Buckle up, it's web-swinging time. And hey, if you're enjoying this, tap that like button. It genuinely helps. Spider Island, her masterpiece. 7 years later, in the 2011 Amazing Spider-Man event called Spider Island, she came back with a partner, the Jackal, that cloning-obsessed mad scientist. Together they engineered a spider virus using Peter's own DNA and released it across Manhattan. And the delivery method? Bedbugs. I'm not joking. Genetically tweaked bedbugs quietly spreading through the city. At first, it looked like a dream. Regular people waking up with Spider-Man's powers, jumping between rooftops, having the time of their lives. Then Stage 3 kicked in. Every infected person began mutating into a giant spider creature, and every single one of them plugged directly into her hive mind. Millions of New Yorkers, heroes and criminals alike, became her drones. She turned an entire island into her own body. And to understand how scary that is, here's the power comparison. Her mind control is basically Purple Man's ability, but scaled up to an entire city at once. Her telepathic web works like a corrupted Professor X, except instead of teaching her people, she puppets them. Her mutagenic touch is pure lizard formula body horror, except she can do it to millions at a time. Her scream can drop a grown man instantly, like a pocket-sized black bolt, and she proved it, because when Agent Venom came at her, she ripped the symbiote clean off his body with one sonic blast. She even mutated Captain America himself, her old flame, into a giant creature called the Spider King. Think about that. The strongest will in Marvel, and she wore him like a puppet. Then she killed the Jackal for failing her, though knowing him, it was obviously another clone. So quick question, and be honest in the comments, is there any villain you can name who did something on this scale to New York? Because I genuinely struggled to think of one. The final form, near the end, Captain America's shield slammed into her back, and everyone thought it was over. Instead, she evolved, her human body tore away, and she became a spider monster 28 stories tall, officially classified as an Omega-level threat. Dozens of heroes threw everything they had at her. Nothing worked. She just kept growing stronger, feeding off every mutated person in the city. So Spider-Man pulled off one of the smartest plays of his career. He hijacked Dr. Octopus technology, those little Octobots, and used them to spread the cure across all of Manhattan at once. Every cured citizen drained a piece of her power, and the final blow came from Kaine, Peter's own clone, wearing a stealth suit that made him immune to her scream. Iron Man later confirmed with an autopsy that Adriana Soria was truly gone. Though of course, the Jackal had already stolen one of her limbs and grown clones from it, which Spider-Man and Alpha had to destroy later. She even popped up again in the mobile game Spider-Man Unlimited, where a literal cult broke her out. Some nightmares just refused to stay buried. So here's the thing about the Spider Queen. Peter Parker got bitten by one radioactive spider and chose to become a hero. Anna Soria got an entire nuclear test dropped on her life, lost her unit, her mind, and 50 years, and her country never even apologized. I'm not saying she was right. Turning a city into a spider colony is, several steps past therapy, but I understand her, and that's what makes her horrifying. She isn't some alien or demon. She's what happens when a hero gets thrown away and left to rot with a grudge and a gift she never asked for. Some monsters are born. This one was built, piece by piece, by her own country. So tell me down below, is she scarier than Green Goblin to you? And which forgotten villain should I dig into next? Subscribe so we can keep this spider family growing, and I'll catch you in the next one. Sleep well tonight, and maybe check for bedbugs.